right, let's jump into this deep dive. We're tackling Ikigai today and its connection to longevity, especially in Okinawa, Japan.
Yeah, it's really interesting stuff.
Ikigai basically translates to the happiness of always being busy.
Sort of, yeah.
But like, don't freak out, right? We're not talking about burning ourselves out. It's more about finding, that purpose and joy in what you do.
Yeah, exactly. Like finding that thing that makes you want to get up in the morning.
To guide us, we've got excerpts from Ikigai, The Japanese Secret to a Long and Happy Life, as our main source.
A great book.
And a bunch of research papers and articles too.
Awesome.
Buckle up, because we're going deep on things like no retirement.
That's a big one.
Eating less to live longer.
Interesting concept.
And using ancient rituals to, combat stress.
I'm in. Let's do this.
So, to start, what exactly is this Ikigai thing?
It's more than just your job or your hobbies. It's like that deep down reason why you get out of bed, that feeling of purpose.
Right, and we see this playing out in Okinawa, one of the blue zones.
Exactly.
So, for people who don't know, blue zones are like these areas around the world where people live the longest.
Yeah, like hot spots for longevity.
What's so special about Okinawa, though?
Think about a place where reaching 100 isn't just rare but normal, and where people at that age are still thriving.
Oh, wow.
Active, engaged, full of life.
That's amazing.
And Okinawa, especially a village there called Ogimi, that's one of those places.
I've heard of Ogimi, the village of longevity.
Yeah, and their culture is intertwined with Ikigai.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Whenever I hear Ikigai, I think of those intricate Japanese characters.
Right.
Is there a deeper meaning baked into those characters, or am I just being, overly poetic?
No, you're onto something. The characters themselves, they add a layer of understanding.
Okay, tell me more.
Iki translates to life, and Kai means worth or purpose. So it's not just about being alive, but living a life with meaning,
Wow, I love that. That's a beautiful way to put it. And it totally makes sense when we're talking about longevity.
Right.
If you've got this strong purpose, it's got to make getting up each day that much more, exciting.
Absolutely. And that purpose is so strong in Okinawa that they don't even have a word for retirement.
Very easy.
Instead of seeing it as an ending, they just keep doing what they love, adapting things as they get older.
So it's about more of a transition than a hard stop.
Yeah, exactly. They've got this youthful energy, this vibrancy that goes beyond how they look.
I love that.
Yeah.
And speaking of youthfulness, the book talks a lot about an active mind.
Right.
It's like that saying, mens sana in corpore sano, a sound mind and a sound body.
Exactly. If you don't use it, you lose it. But what kind of mental activity are we talking about here?
It's got to be more than just crosswords, right?
Totally. It's about constantly challenging your mind, learning new things, being curious. The book has this great story about an Israeli neuroscientist, Shlomo Bresnitz.
Oh, yeah.
He found that getting outside your comfort zone, it actually revitalizes the brain. It's like you're making new connections in your brain.
That's so cool. Mental weightlifting.
Exactly.
But here's the thing. We don't live in a peaceful Okinawan village right now. Life gets stressful. How do they handle that stress without it, aging them?
It's a great question. The book talks about research from Heidelberg University Hospital.
Good.
And they found that stress triggers an immune response that can actually damage healthy cells. So yeah, it speeds up aging.
Wait, so stress isn't just bad for my mental health, it's actually making me age faster. That's not good.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. The book makes this comparison between us and cave dwellers.
Okay.
Back then, stress was for real threats,
Right.
like life or death stuff.
Right.
But now our brains can't tell the difference between a deadline and a saber-toothed tiger.
Yeah.
So we're constantly on edge, and that chronic stress, it takes a toll.
So what do? Do we all need to go live in a cave?
Well, that might be nice, but there are other options.
Okay, good.
The book talks about mindfulness as a powerful antidote.
Mindfulness. I've tried a little meditation.
Yeah.
Do they do a lot of that in Okinawa?
Yeah, it's a big part of their life. The book mentions Roberto Alcibar, who totally changed his life with mindfulness. It's about turning off that autopilot that keeps us worrying and distracted.
I like that. It's about savoring each moment instead of rushing to the next thing.
Exactly.
But is all stress bad?
Good question.
Sometimes a little pressure can be motivating.
Yeah. There's some research on that. Dr. Howard S. Friedman, he studies longevity.
Yeah.
And he found that people with a bit of stress who were passionate about their goals, they actually lived longer than those who were completely laid back.
So it's about finding that balance.
Exactly.
Enough to get you going, but not enough to burn you out.
Right.
Speaking of balance, the Okinawans get up early, right?
Yeah, they do.
What's their secret? Is sleep part of their longevity equation?
Absolutely. The book mentions how important sleep is for producing melatonin.
Melatonin, that's the stuff that's supposed to make you look younger, right? Models use it for glowing skin or something.
Yeah. They even mention in the book how models try to get like 9 to 10 hours of sleep before big shows.
Wow.
But melatonin isn't just about beauty. It does a lot of things.
Really?
It boosts your immune system, might protect against cancer, and could even help prevent osteoporosis and heart disease.
Wow, that's amazing. But I heard melatonin decreases as we age.
That's true.
Can we do anything about that, or are we just stuck?
The book has some tips like eating a balanced diet, getting sunlight, managing stress,
Okay.
and limiting things like alcohol, tobacco, and caffeine, especially before bed.
So basically all the stuff our doctors tell us to do anyway.
Right, but when you link it to Ikigai and longevity, it makes you think about it differently.
I guess so. It's like I don't just want to look younger. I want to actually feel younger, and live longer. And it's not just about what we do. It's about our attitude.
Yeah,
Right.
definitely. The book mentions a study from Yeshiva University. They found that centenarians, they tend to have positive attitudes and a good understanding of their emotions.
So it's how you handle life's ups and downs.
Yes, it really is. There's this great song in the book, sung by a woman almost 100 years old. It's about keeping your mind sharp by keeping your fingers moving.
Love that.
There's this line that sticks with me. If you keep moving with your fingers working, 100 years will come to you.
That's like a life motto.
Yeah.
Sounds like they really get the idea of staying active, both physically and mentally.
Yeah.
But Ikigai is more than just living longer.
Right. It's also about finding your purpose, why you're here.
And that's where Viktor Frankl and his logotherapy comes in.
Exactly. Logotherapy is all about finding meaning in life. Have you read any Frankl?
Of course. Man's Search for Meaning. It's like a classic. His experiences in the Holocaust and what he learned about resilience are incredible.
Yeah, super powerful stuff.
He really believed that having a purpose is key to overcoming challenges and living a good life.
Absolutely. There's this quote from him. Everything can be taken from a man but one thing. The last of the human freedoms to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way.
Wow. So powerful, especially coming from someone who went through what he did.
Yeah.
But how does logotherapy connect to Ikigai?
Logotherapy can help people find their purpose by confronting what they're anxious about and finding reasons to live.
Okay.
It encourages you to choose your attitude and your path, even when things are tough.
So you're taking that existential dread and turning it into fuel.
Exactly. You see it as this yearning for a more meaningful life.
I get it.
The book talks about 5 steps in logotherapy.
Okay.
But it's really a personal journey.
Right.
It starts with acknowledging that feeling of emptiness and realizing it's a desire for something more.
Like when you feel stuck in a rut.
Exactly. Maybe that's a sign to start searching for your Ikigai. Logotherapy helps you figure out what your purpose is and then use it to overcome obstacles.
So instead of running from those uncomfortable feelings, we should listen to them.
Yeah. They call it existential frustration, but it's a good thing. It pushes you to change.
Okay, existential frustration. Got it.
It's different from an existential crisis, which is more about external pressure and wanting approval. They give the example of Sunday neurosis, that feeling of emptiness some people get when they don't have work to distract them.
Oh, I know that feeling. It makes you wonder if your life has any meaning beyond your job.
Right. And maybe Ikigai is the answer.
So how do we actually find it, this Ikigai?
That's where flow comes in. It's that state where you're totally absorbed in something, you lose track of time.
Like being in the zone.
Exactly. The book describes it like skiing down your favorite slope.
Oh, I can picture that.
No past, no future, just the pure joy of the moment.
It's like that Bruce Lee quote, "Be water, my friend."
Exactly. And this psychologist, Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, he studied flow his whole career.
Oh yeah, I've heard of him.
He believed that flow is a key ingredient for happiness. But it doesn't just happen magically. There are things we can do to cultivate it.
So it's not just waiting for those moments where everything clicks. What did the book suggest?
One big thing is finding the right balance between challenge and skill.
Makes sense. If something's too easy, we get bored, but if it's too hard, we get frustrated. It's got to be that sweet spot.
Exactly.
So instead of always sticking to the familiar,
Yeah.
we need to try new things.
Yes. Level up in whatever you're passionate about.
That sounds great, But staying focused is tough these days. Social media, emails, notifications. It's a constant battle for our attention.
The book talks about having a clear objective for flow, similar to goals in video games or sports.
Interesting.
Break down those big, overwhelming aspirations into smaller steps.
So instead of vaguely wanting to be more creative,
Right.
I need to set specific goals.
Yes.
But even with a clear goal, distractions are everywhere. How do we create space for flow in all this noise?
One of the most surprising things they suggest is single tasking.
Wait, really? But we live in a multitasking world.
I know, but research shows that multitasking actually makes us less productive. The University of London found that it messes with our cognitive control.
So trying to do everything at once is making me less efficient.
Yeah, our brains are constantly switching gears, so it's hard to get into that deep flow state.
Okay, I'm convinced. Single tasking it is. But how do we actually break free from the multitasking habit?
There are some simple things you can do, like what if you disconnected from screens for the first and last hour of your day?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I'm totally guilty of the phone scroll first thing in the morning and last thing at night.
It's a common habit, but it can be really impactful to start and end your day without that digital stimulation.
Okay, I'm willing to try it. What else?
Turning off notifications or putting your phone on Do Not Disturb can be helpful. And maybe try a tech-free day once a week.
A digital detox. I like it.
It can really help reset your relationship with technology. Also, checking email just once or twice a day at specific times can be a game changer.
So it'd free up so much mental space.
And if you're really struggling, try the Pomodoro technique.
I've heard of that.
25 minutes of focused work followed by a 5-minute break.
It's like built-in rewards.
Exactly.
So it's not just digital habits, right?
No.
Our physical space matters too.
Absolutely. Finding a quiet place where you can focus is super important.
I definitely work better when my space is organized.
It makes a difference.
But what happens when those inevitable distractions pop up? How do we get back on track?
That's where mindfulness comes in. When you notice your mind wandering, gently bring it back to the present. Meditation, breath work, or even a short walk can help.
It's like creating a toolkit for focus and flow. Do they talk about this stuff in Japanese culture?
Yeah, they do.
Like, are there groups or professions that embody Ikigai and flow?
There's this group called the Takumi.
Takumi.
They're master artisans, people who dedicate their lives to perfecting a specific skill.
Oh, like those sushi chefs who train for years.
Exactly. The book talks about Toyota Takumi, who are experts in things like handcrafting screws.
Wow. That level of precision is incredible. It's amazing how much they value craftsmanship.
Yeah, it's really impressive. They also dedicate a whole section to Jiro Ono, the sushi chef from the documentary Jiro Dreams of Sushi.
Oh, yeah. He's so passionate about his work.
Right. Even in his old age, he still personally chooses the best ingredients every day.
He's the definition of Ikigai.
It's a great example of finding joy in your work, in your craft.
His sushi is like art. Are there other Ikigai artists out there?
They mention Hayao Miyazaki, the director of Studio Ghibli.
Oh, I love Studio Ghibli.
He's still so dedicated to his craft.
Really?
He uses traditional animation techniques even though they take longer.
Wow.
He doesn't want to retire because he loves drawing so much.
That's so inspiring. Age is just a number when you've got your Ikigai, right?
Right.
Do they mention any non-Japanese artists?
Yeah, they talk about Einstein, who never stopped working on his theories,
Okay.
and authors like Haruki Murakami, actors like Christopher Plummer, who all kept going strong.
It's so cool seeing people from all walks of life finding and following their Ikigai.
Totally. They even include quotes from artists in the New York Times who talk about how important lifelong learning is. It shows that Ikigai is a journey, not a destination.
We've covered so much already, but I'm really curious to hear about the author's experiences in Ogimi, the village of longevity.
Me too. They actually spent time with the villagers, saw their daily lives, even went to some of their celebrations.
I can't wait to hear about it. What did they learn from the people who seem to have figured out this whole living a long and happy life thing?
Let's get into it. One of the things that really struck the authors was just how social everyone in Ogimi is. They're always getting together, whether it's for meals or celebrations, even playing gate ball.
Gate ball.
Yeah, it's kind of like shuffleboard. They're really big on it there.
It's great that they prioritize those connections, even with busy lives. I remember the book mentioned a birthday party they went to.
Oh, yeah.
The youngest person there was 83.
It's amazing. They really know how to celebrate life.
It sounds like it.
Yeah.
And those connections aren't just for fun. They're really important to their Ikigai, right?
Totally. They see their friends as a lifeline, their support system. One of the villagers said, "Getting together with my friends is my most important Ikigai. We all get together here and talk. It's very important. I always know I'll see them all here tomorrow, and that's one of my favorite things in life."
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah.
It's like that feeling of knowing you've got people you can count on no matter what.
Exactly. And it makes you wonder if that sense of community is part of the reason they live so long.
Right. Like, it's not just about what you eat or how much you exercise.
There's something to be said for feeling connected and supported.
Did they talk about any specific beliefs or rituals that might play a role too?
The book touched on Ryukyu Shinto, which is the main religion in Okinawa. It's a really interesting blend of like Taoism, Confucianism, Buddhism,
Okay.
even some shamanistic and animistic beliefs.
Wow, that's a lot of different influences. Were there any that stood out to you?
I was really drawn to their deep respect for nature. They believe in spirits living in the forests and mountains, and they have rituals to honor their ancestors.
So it's like they see themselves as part of something bigger.
Exactly. Connected to both the natural world and their lineage, it creates a sense of continuity and belonging.
That's beautiful. I'm really curious about those proverbs and sayings the authors collected from the centenarians.
Oh yeah, they're full of wisdom.
What were some of your favorites?
One that stuck with me was, "The secret to a long life is always saying to myself, slow down and relax. You live much longer if you're not in a hurry."
I love that. We're so used to rushing around in our modern lives. Maybe slowing down is the real key to longevity.
Right, it's about savoring the journey. Another good one was, "Every day I say to myself, today will be full of health and energy. Live it to the fullest."
It's like a daily affirmation for a good life.
Exactly. It's about choosing to approach each day with enthusiasm and purpose.
Were there any proverbs about diet or lifestyle? I'm curious about what they eat in Okinawa.
Oh yeah, they have a whole chapter on the Ikigai diet, and it's really different from what we're used to in the West.
How so?
They're big on variety, fresh ingredients, and mindful eating.
So it's not about following some strict diet plan.
No, it's more about making conscious choices and enjoying the experience of eating.
That sounds way more sustainable than some crazy fad diet. What kind of foods do they eat?
They eat a ton of vegetables, especially purple sweet potatoes.
Purple sweet potatoes. I've never even seen those.
They're full of antioxidants that you don't find in other varieties. It's amazing how these small food choices can make a big difference.
Totally. What else is on the menu?
Seaweed, tofu, fish, seafood, those are all staples. And they practice hara hachibu.
Hara hachibu.
It means eating until you're 80% full. Basically, you stop eating before you feel stuffed.
So it's about listening to your body's cues. I wonder if that's part of why they have such low rates of obesity and chronic disease.
It probably plays a role. The book mentions a cardiologist, Dr. Makoto Suzuki, who's been studying the Okinawan diet for years.
Oh, yeah?
He's found that their eating habits are linked to lower rates of heart disease, cancer, all sorts of things.
That makes sense. Their diet is full of antioxidants and anti-inflammatory compounds. Didn't they mention a book called the Okinawa Program?
Yeah, it goes into more detail about the science and how to apply their eating principles.
I'll have to check that out. What about calorie restriction? That seems to be a hot topic in the longevity world.
They do talk about it, but they emphasize that it's not about deprivation.
Okay.
It's more about reducing your overall calorie intake while still eating nutritious foods.
So it's about quality over quantity.
Exactly. And they mention the 5.2 diet as an option. You eat normally for 5 days, then restrict your calories for 2.
I've heard of that. It seems like a more manageable approach to calorie restriction. Did they highlight any specific foods that are particularly good for longevity?
One that stood out was Goya, also known as bitter melon.
Bitter melon, it's like that saying, what tastes bad is good for you.
Exactly. It's super bitter, but it's packed with nutrients. They also mentioned turmeric, a great anti-inflammatory, and shikuwasa, a citrus fruit high in vitamin C.
I need to expand my culinary horizons. And of course, we can't forget about green tea. They drink a lot of that in Okinawa, right?
Tons. And they have a special blend with jasmine flowers called sanpincha.
Ooh, fancy.
It's loaded with antioxidants.
I love green tea. It always makes me feel good. But it's not just about what they eat, right? They're also pretty active.
Oh, yeah. Movement is a big part of their lifestyle. The book has a whole chapter on gentle movement practices for longevity.
It's like they say, sitting is the new smoking. We're meant to move. What kind of activities do they do?
They do this thing called Radio Taiso, where the whole country does synchronized exercises together in the morning. They broadcast it on the radio.
That's awesome. It's like a nationwide fitness party.
Right. And they also do things like yoga, tai chi, qigong.
I love yoga and tai chi. It's amazing how they combine movement, mindfulness, and breath work. Do they go into detail about those practices?
Yeah, they actually give instructions for a sun salutation in yoga and a tai chi exercise called wave hands like clouds.
Cool. Might have to try those. What's Qigong?
It's all about cultivating and balancing qi, which is like your life force energy.
Interesting.
One of the exercises they describe works with the 5 elements: earth, water, wood, metal, and fire. It's supposed to help balance your energy and improve organ function.
Wow, it's a whole system. Didn't they also mention shiatsu?
They did.
Yeah.
It's a Japanese healing art that uses pressure and stretching to balance your energy. Have you ever tried it?
I have. It's incredibly relaxing and restorative.
I agree. It's like a deeper level of body work.
Did they talk about breath work at all?
Yeah, they mentioned how ancient texts talk about regulating kie through breathing exercises.
Makes sense. Our breath is so connected to both our body and mind.
Right. It's like that saying, the breath is the thread that ties life to the body.
Learning to control your breath can be really powerful. But even with all these healthy habits, life can be tough.
That's true.
How do the Okinawans deal with challenges and setbacks?
That's where resilience comes in. The book says people with a strong Ikigai have this never give up attitude.
Like their sense of purpose helps them get through tough times.
Exactly. They face adversity with inner strength and adapt to whatever comes their way. They bounce back from challenges.
Are there any specific qualities that make someone resilient?
They talk about focus, adaptability, and emotional control. And they connect resilience to philosophies like Buddhism and Stoicism. Are you familiar with those?
Oh yeah, I love the wisdom of those traditions. What do they say about them?
They both emphasize controlling your emotions and accepting what you can't change. It's about focusing on the present moment instead of dwelling on the past or worrying about the future.
It's about responding skillfully rather than just reacting. Did they mention any specific practices?
They talk about the Stoic practice of negative visualization. You imagine the worst case scenario to prepare yourself mentally.
That's interesting. It's like giving yourself an emotional inoculation.
Exactly. They also talk about mindfulness, which helps you become aware of your thoughts and emotions so you can choose how to respond.
I love that quote. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom.
That's perfect. And they also talked about living in the present moment and accepting that things are always changing.
That's classic Buddhism.
Yeah.
Impermanence. If we can accept that nothing lasts forever, it can actually be really freeing.
Right. It allows you to appreciate the beauty of each moment without clinging to things you can't control. This ties into the Japanese concept of wabi-sabi.
Oh, I've heard of that. Finding beauty in imperfection, right?
Exactly. And they connect wabi-sabi to the practice of ichigo ichii, cherishing each moment as unique and special.
It's like that saying, you only live once. It makes you want to savor every experience.
Exactly. But they didn't stop at resilience. They also talked about anti-fragility.
Anti-fragility, what's that?
They used the example of Hercules fighting the Hydra. Every time he cut off one of its heads, 2 more grew back.
So it's not just bouncing back, it's getting stronger from challenges.
Exactly. And it's not just people. Systems can be anti-fragile too.
Like what?
The human body, financial markets, things that actually thrive on a bit of chaos.
Wow, that's a cool concept.
Yeah.
But how do we become more anti-fragile?
The book gives 3 steps. First, create redundancies.
Redundancies.
Like having multiple income streams, diverse friendships, different interests. Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
That's good advice for life in general. What's the second step?
Balance conservative investments with calculated risks. Don't be afraid to step outside your comfort zone.
I like that. Play it safe sometimes, but also take chances. What's the third step?
Identify and eliminate sources of fragility in your life.
So figure out what makes you vulnerable and address it.
Exactly. They used the 2011 tsunami in Japan as an example.
Oh, right. They talked about how some towns were able to bounce back quickly, but the Fukushima nuclear power plant wasn't.
Right. It shows that some systems are just more fragile than others.
It makes you think about where you might need to shore things up in your own life. So much to consider. We've learned so much about the Okinawans. Their diet, their lifestyle, their beliefs, their philosophies.
It's really fascinating stuff.
Do the authors have any final takeaways, like any rules to live by?
They did. They came up with 10 rules of Ikigai based on all the wisdom they gathered from those Okinawan centenarians.
Okay, I'm all ears. Lay 'em on me. What's rule number 1?
Rule number 1 is stay active, don't retire. They found that when people stop doing the things they love, they kind of lose their purpose.
That makes total sense. It's not just about physical activity. It's about staying engaged, having those things that make you feel alive.
Exactly. It's about finding ways to keep expressing your Ikigai throughout your life, you know? Keep it going. What do you think about rule number 2?
Rule number 2 is take it slow. Oh, I love that one. It's so easy to get caught up in the rush of everything, but maybe slowing down is the key, like actually enjoying life instead of just speeding through it.
I agree. It's a good reminder to pace ourselves.
Mm.
And then rule number 3 is don't fill your stomach. That goes back to mindful eating, that hara hachibu idea we were talking about.
Right, remembering to stop when you're satisfied, not stuffed. It's harder than it sounds.
It takes practice, but it's worth it.
Yeah.
Okay. What about rule number 4?
Rule number 4, surround yourself with good friends. They really hammered home how important those social connections are, not just for our mental well-being, but for our physical health too.
They even called friends the best medicine.
Ah, I love that. It's true though, right?
Yeah. Especially as we get older, those close relationships, they really make a difference.
Sharing life with people you love, that's what it's all about. Okay, rule number 5, let's hear it.
Rule number 5, get in shape for your next birthday.
Ooh, I love that one. It's like exercise isn't a punishment, it's a way to celebrate another year.
Exactly. It's a gift to yourself.
What's rule number 6?
Rule number 6 is a simple one. Smile.
Sometimes it's forget how much a simple smile can change things. It's like a conscious choice to be more positive, and it can totally change the energy around you.
Totally. A smile is contagious. All right, how about rule number 7?
Rule number 7 is reconnect with nature. We can get so disconnected from nature, especially living in cities, but that connection is so important.
I totally agree. Even a short walk in the park, just to remind yourself that we're part of something bigger.
It's grounding. Okay, what about rule number 8?
Rule number 8 is give thanks. Cultivating gratitude for all the good things in our lives, both big and small.
Gratitude is huge. They suggest taking a few moments each day to think about the things you're thankful for.
Even simple things like your health, your family, a nice cup of coffee.
It's like a little boost of positivity. What's rule number 9?
Rule number 9, live in the moment.
Ah, yes. Be present, savor the now. It's so easy to get caught up in the past or worry about the future. But maybe the secret to a long, happy life is just learning to appreciate this moment right here.
I think you might be onto something. And finally, we come to rule number 10, which brings us back to where we started. Follow your Ikigai.
Love it. Full circle. It's a reminder that we all have that purpose waiting to be discovered, that thing that makes us feel truly alive.
And sometimes finding your Ikigai is a journey. It takes time, But the book encourages us to keep exploring, keep trying new things, listen to our intuition.
Wow, this has been such an amazing deep dive. I'm feeling really inspired to take what we've learned and try to apply it in my own life.
Me too. It's been fascinating to explore Ikigai, longevity, and the wisdom of the Okinawans. They really seem to have something special figured out.
It's a good reminder that living a long and happy life isn't just about luck. It's about making choices, building good habits, and having a positive outlook.
And it's about finding that thing, that Ikigai, that gives your life meaning and purpose. A huge thank you to all our listeners for joining us on this deep dive into Ikigai and longevity.
We hope you feel as inspired as we do to embrace these principles and see how they can transform your life. Thanks for listening.